As we head into this last week of Advent, we hear the theme of how God has made and kept His promises, often in the face of dire circumstances. In our Old Testament readings, we hear of how David offers to make God a house, but God turns around and says, "No, I'm going to make you a house, and I will give you an heir to come after you as well." God fulfills the long desire of Hannah for a son, and when her baby Samuel is born, she comes and offers him back to God in the temple. We hear Paul reflect on how God led the Israelites out of Egypt. The prophet Malachi tells us that God will send a messenger to prepare the way for the Messiah. In our New Testament readings as well, we hear of God's promises as God sends Gabriel to Mary to tell her that she will become the mother of God. Mary rejoices and she goes to her cousin Elizabeth and sings a canticle of praise for all the good things God has done, not only for her, but for the people of her past. Joseph, her betrothed, receives a dream from God telling him it's okay to take Mary as his wife, that everything will be all right. Elizabeth, in her old age, finally gives birth to John the Baptist, the messenger. Elizabeth's husband, Zechariah, like Mary, sings a canticle of praise, rejoicing in the wonder of it all. Echoing through all of this, we hear Paul's words that the mystery that was kept secret for long ages is now being made manifest. In the past, God spoke through the prophets, but now God speaks through the Son. In other words, over and over again throughout salvation history, God has made promises to His beloved people and has kept those promises. Their longings and desires have been fulfilled. Although that's not necessarily in the way one might expect, nor with the clockwork timing, God does keep His promises. As we head into this last week before Christmas, what are your desires? What do you hope for from God? What has God promised to you? While we make lots of wish lists for Santa, when we offer our desires to God, it's kind of different. We don't necessarily expect God to show up in the way that Santa does, at a particular time, under a particular tree. No one expected Jesus, the Son of God, to come as a baby and be born in a barn. We have to be patient with God also. Sometimes God answers the desires of our hearts in ways that may not appear to be what we were asking for. Many people had a hard time recognizing Jesus as the Messiah, and some even turned away from Him. Yet, we hear again and again in Scripture how God has made promises and God has fulfilled them. Fundamentally, the good news is that God is trustworthy. So many people before us have rejoiced to see God's promises kept. The love of the Lord never fails. This Advent, we can believe in God's promises to us, too.